You know what's freaking awesome? Sonic Mania. You know what isn't freaking awesome? Points. So today, that was the best intro I could come up with. Don't judge me. So today, we're gonna be finding out what the lowest possible score to beat Sonic Mania is. So first, let's talk about the main sources of points that we're going to want to avoid. So the first thing we're gonna have to look out for mostly is enemies. They are scattered all throughout levels and can give you anywhere from 100 to a couple hundred of points depending on the enemy. In this run, I'm going to be playing as Tails, so we should be able to maneuver around enemies fairly easily, but enemies will become a bigger issue later, as I will discuss then. The second thing we're gonna have to look out for is random stuff in the levels, as I have it written down here in my script. For example, in Chemical Plant Zone, there's these little things that block the pipes, and when you jump on them, you get 100 points, and they're required to break to enter a few pipes, so we're gonna have to look out for those. In Studiopolis Zone, the bumpers give you 10 points, and so on. Obviously, these are very level specific, so I'm going to mention them as we come to them. They shouldn't be that much of an issue. And the third thing we're gonna have to look out for, probably most importantly, is the end of level bonuses. Every time you finish an act in Sonic Mania, you get 3 point tallies tallied up, and then they get added to your total score. First up is the ring bonus. All you really have to know for this is that you have to make sure that you end the level with 0 rings. This should be pretty easy because we can just fight the bosses as normally and then get hit by them before we hit them the last time, and then we shouldn't have any rings when the level ends, as long as we don't pick it up again on accident. The second bonus is a time bonus. This basically just acts as the lower time you get in a level, the more of a bonus you get. For this run, all we have to know is that if you end a level with over 6 minutes on the clock, then you get a 0 time bonus. So if by the time we reach the boss, we are not already at 6 minutes, we're just gonna have to sit there and wait until we hit that and then kill the boss. The third and final bonus is the cool bonus, and the way that we can avoid this is by being very uncool. Essentially, once you start an act, your cool bonus is by default 10,000. Every time you take damage in the level, your cool bonus goes down by 1,000. So to get a cool bonus of 0, we're just gonna have to get hit 10 times. So if we combine all of those things together, theoretically, we should be able to get a 0 for every one of these bonuses, and therefore get no extra points for the end of level bonus. So those are the 3 main things we're gonna have to look out for during the run, and now that we've established them, we can just jump into Mania mode as Tails and beat Green Hill Zone. Green Hill 1 is fairly easy, especially considering that a lot of it is in open air, so we can just fly over enemies a lot. I'm not gonna mention this for any level besides Green Hill 1, but we do have to make sure that we get hit 10 times and that we wait 6 minutes before entering the boss. Mentioning that for every single act would waste time, even though I do have to do it in every single act. So whenever I talk about a difficult level, you're just gonna have to remember in your mind that all of these unspoken bonus skips make it all that much more painful. As mentioned earlier, we can get to the end of Green Hill 1 pretty easily, and then we can kill the boss and get 1,000 points. Yes, that is correct. There is actually a 4th source of points that is going to be the biggest issue. At the end of every act in this game, there is a boss. Once you kill it, you get 1,000 points. That's how it works for every single boss. Bosses are not skippable at all, and you do have to kill them to get to the end of the level. So that means there's a theoretical minimum of 1,000 points per act, which leaves us at 24,000 minimum points theoretically. There are 12 zones in the game, 2 acts each. 1,000 for each act gives us 24,000 points. At first, once I found out how to get 0 at the end of level bonuses, I was like, wow, we might be able to beat it without getting any points as long as there aren't any enemies in the way or anything, but this kind of screws over that plan by about 24,000 points. But you think that I am really just going to sit here and take that? You think I am just going to sit here and take that 24,000 points? No! Earlier I said that you have to fight a boss to finish the level. However, that is not true. Just like any other game, Sonic Mania has glitches. And because of these glitches, there are many ways to skip certain bosses in Sonic Mania by doing unintended things. Whether it's glitching the game in a certain way where you can fly over the boss trigger, or if the level designers just got lazy and placed the end of level capsule in the middle of nowhere, hoping that nobody would find it even though it's accessible by normal means, and then you just get teleported there at the end of the boss, but you can actually fly down there through normal means if you know where it is. Or by glitching yourself out so you don't have collision and then flying off the the side of the stage and doing level wraps, there are many ways to skip many bosses in this game. However, most of these do require Encore mode. I know, it's crazy, right? Encore mode helping in a Sonic Mania challenge? That's unheard of. I've already explained Encore mode like a million times in my other Sonic Mania challenge videos, so just go watch those if you haven't already, and then come back here because I'm not going to explain it again in case you don't know what it is. Essentially, most of these require a glitch called a partner clip, which is where you call your partner to you and then they get stuck in the ceiling, so you can skip the majority of the level by then switching to them and jumping a whole bunch and doing a bunch of weird stuff like you're seeing right now. But in Encore mode, we can't actually start with Tails. We have to start with Sonic in Angel Island. Lucky for us, Angel Island is fully possible as Sonic without killing any enemies and without getting any of the end of level bonuses. At the end of Angel Island, we want to pick Ray because he has more versatility than Mighty and will probably help us get around enemies easier. Not like that much matters anyways, because the second we get into Green Hill, we get a Tails monitor and kill Sonic. Now our team is Tails and Ray, and this is what it's going to be for pretty much the rest of the entire game. There are downsides and upsides to having a partner. Obviously, an upside is that you need a partner to do a lot of the boss skips, and it's just convenient to have them on you at all times. You know how I said earlier, though, that enemies were going to become a bigger problem later? That's what I was talking about right now. Always having a partner with you during this challenge is like being the mother of an incompetent child that does specifically what you tell them not to do. You know, most of the time while you're on screen, as long as you don't jump, your partner won't jump. The second you get off screen, they just go bam, 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 gotta get back up to you as fast as you can, just start randomly jumping everywhere, and oh crap, they just ran into an enemy. Luckily, if they are off screen, you can just spam the swap button and they'll teleport back to you a lot faster. So get ready to hear this noise a lot. Green Hill 1 and 2 are kind of like practice zones to get used to skipping the end of level bonuses and to get used to Ray constantly killing enemies even though you say, "No, Ray, please don't kill the enemy." Ray, I swear to God! Neither Green Hill 1 or Green Hill 2 have any boss skips, so you just play through them as normally, and you end up with 2,000 points by the end of them. After we beat Green Hill, we move on to Chemical Plant Zone, which the routing is kind of difficult for. I know, right? Crazy, difficult routing in a Sonic Mania challenge? That's unheard of. At the start of the video, I did mention these little pipe caps that when you jump on, you get 100 points. And jumping on these is required to enter many of the pipes in this level. The routing's kind of difficult, but it is possible to maneuver around in a way that you don't go into any of the pipes that are covered. After beating up the boss, we move into Chemical Plant 2. Chemical Plant 2 has a lot of the same issues as Chemical Plant 1 does, with trying to avoid the pop cap covered pipe things. Although there is some difficult routing, we can get to the end of the level right before the boss, but then we have to enter this pipe, which is covered by one of those pop cap pipe thingies that gives you 100 points once you jump on it. Because of this, we can't enter the boss without collecting 100 points. Lucky for us, Chemical Plant 2 is actually one of the levels with a boss skip. Earlier on in the level, during this section, we can actually do a partner clip to clip out of bounds and then go into this pipe the opposite direction, which sends us out to the end of the level. And if we call our partner at the exact right time, it will hit the capsule. This loop right here, you're not supposed to be able to walk in. You're supposed to be stuck in a spinning state, but by doing a partner clip, we can get up there while walking. From there, we can just jump into this pipe and then walk to the left, and it shoots us off to the left. Usually in this loop, though, there are rings that you collect while doing the skip. So before we do the partner clip to get out of bounds, we actually have to send Ray up this pipe to collect the rings and then take damage to lose the rings because we have to end the level with 0 rings. After we do that, to ensure that we don't have any rings when we end the level, we just have to do the skip, make sure we call Ray at the right time, and hope he hits the capsule. And with that, we can exit Chemical Plant Zone with only 3,000 points as opposed to the theoretical 4,000, not even counting the 100 that we'd have to get to enter the boss. It's at this point I would like to give a huge thanks to Joey. He's currently the world record holder for the Sonic Mania Encore mode speedrun. I got in contact with him and he helped show me how to do a lot of these boss skips because they are used in speedruns. Without him, I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out how to do a lot of these boss skips, so definitely go check him out if you're interested. He has a Twitch channel and I'll leave a link to his world record VOD in the description. It is super cool. He is amazingly talented. Also at this point, I'd like to mention that all the boss skips that are possible in the game have been found. There are some capsules and signposts in the game frame that are already at the end of the level, so they're just waiting for you once you defeat the boss. But sometimes the capsule or sign comes down from the ceiling after you defeat the boss, and so you can only end the level after you beat the boss. Boss skips in the levels where the signpost or capsule only spawns after you beat the boss are not possible, because you have to beat the boss to be able to end the level. It's just kind of random as to which acts have the signpost or capsule spawn after you beat the boss, or which ones just have them at the end of the level already. And lucky for us, a boss skip method has been found for every level that already has them at the end of the level, so this run should be fully optimized. Now that we have that out of the way, let's go into Studiopolis 1, which has a boss skip right at the beginning. In Encore mode, if you die to an enemy and then the next frame your death animation gets cancelled by something, you actually get revived, and you don't have any collision with objects. This shows up a couple times in the run, so I'm going to refer to it as the no collision mode thingy, as I have written down in my script. I am really good at writing scripts. Near the start of Studiopolis, there is this platform where you can spin dash off of, and then you will die to this little hangy enemy boy, and then the next frame, your death animation will be cancelled by the bumper. This revives you with no collision to objects, allowing you to glide off the left side of the level and then reappear at the right with some precise gliding. There is only a 2-frame window that you can do your spin dash off this ledge. If you miss the 2-frame window where you have to release your spin dash, you'll either die to the hangy boy and not have your death cancelled, or you'll kill him and not have anything special happen. But once you have it just right, you can just go back to the start of the level without collecting any rings, because remember, we do have to end without having any rings. And then because you don't have any collision with anything, you can just glide off the left side of the screen basically, and then the screen will lock in some other place, and there's some inputs you have to do. You can't really see what you're doing at all because the screen is locked, but eventually you want to release your glide and then start randomly walking left or right to try and trigger the signpost without accidentally walking back into the boss trigger. Doing these inputs at the right time without accidentally going too far left to trigger the boss again is difficult, and it took me many tries. Eventually I did reach the end of the level, made sure that I got 0 end of level bonus points, and moved on to Studiopolis Zone Act 2. There is one thing I'd like to mention still about Studiopolis 1 though. Although we can skip the 1000 points for beating the boss, we still do get 20 points in this level. Hitting these bumpers gives us 10 points each, and while doing this setup, a bumper is actually what cancels our death animation. And we do actually hit 2 bumpers here, so we do get 20 points. Now obviously 20 is better than 1000, but it isn't better than 0. This is the only part of the run that I think might still be able to be optimized in some way. There could be some other way to do this trick without bumpers that hasn't been found yet, but I did just feel like I had to mention that we do still get 20 points in this level. It is better than 1000, but it's still points. Studiopolis 2 has the same problem with bumpers. It still has a ton of bumpers in it, and it has some breakable things that give you points if you break them. This level is very difficult. There's some very weird routing. Ray he just keeps jumping into the enemies, man. These roulette wheels also give you tons of points when you go into them, and obviously we're gonna have to avoid those, but they're all throughout the level. Partway through the level, we do have to do a partner clip in order to avoid a required roulette wheel. Near the end of the level, there's another supposedly required roulette wheel. But in this right wall here, there is a big ring secret, and we can actually just take this teleporter thing to skip the roulette wheel. Thank God for level maps, or I never would have figured this out. Although time-consuming, annoying, and difficult to get through, we can take on the boss as normal, collect our 1000 points, and move on to Flying Battery. Flying Battery 1 isn't too difficult. The main issue here is still from Ray jumping into enemies when you don't want him to, and then you have to restart. Specifically these little mice guys, they are everywhere, and Ray just loves to kill them. I'm not going to go into details, but it is once again a very time-consuming and difficult to route level. With enough patience, we can get to the end, and the boss it's the boss. The whole thing of this boss is that basically you get crushed more and more as it goes on, and you have to kill it before you get crushed. As time goes on in the boss, it spawns more and more enemies from the wreckage below you. In normal play, you can just jump into these enemies and even use them for a boost to reach the boss earlier, and by killing the enemies as they come out, it isn't really an issue that they get spawned more and more. For our run though, we cannot kill these enemies, so it just gets more and more difficult as time goes on. In fact, after some testing, I believe that this is impossible in Encore mode without killing at least one enemy, if not more. As Tails, you can just fly up and take out the boss pretty easily, but Ray is just down there jumping and jumping and jumping, and he hits enemies eventually. So that's why for this boss, I killed Ray. I also knew that I wouldn't need him for a partner clip or a boss skip or anything for quite a few more levels, so I decided to drop him for now and take things into my own hands. Although very difficult, it is possible to maneuver around the enemies that this boss spawns by yourself. I'm still not really sure how I got it. I think it was mostly just dumb luck, but you can jump around the enemies, maneuver around them, just hope you get enough hits in the boss, and eventually beat it without killing any of the enemies. Now at first I tried getting Ray back in Flying Battery 2, and then I realized, hey, I still don't need him, so I decided to keep going by myself. Let's just say that these couple levels where I didn't have Ray following me all the time were much easier. Maneuvering through Flying Battery 2 still isn't easy, but after you get a route, it is pretty simple to get to the boss skip. This is the only boss skip in the game that you don't need a partner to do. Usually you reach the boss in this level, and then after you beat it, you get teleported to the bottom right of the level map where the capsule is. If you know where the capsule is beforehand, you can just fly down there from the level without having to go to the boss at all. That's not to say they aren't trying to keep you from doing this normally. There are death barriers and screen locks you have to maneuver around, but with careful maneuvering, you can go through these barriers and screen locks and hit the capsule without fighting the boss. In Press Garden 1, we still don't need Ray because there is no boss skip. It's a pretty normal level, nothing too special. Some enemies are kind of hard to maneuver around, and the boss is kind of difficult to defeat with having 0 rings at the end, but it is possible. In Press Garden 2, we do need Ray because there is a boss skip that requires him here. Lucky for us, there's a life monitor right at the end of the level, so we can grab Ray from that, hit a checkpoint, and try the boss skip. In this pillar right here, there is a trigger zone that locks the Y-axis of the camera so that you can't fly over the boss trigger. But this trigger can only be activated by the character that is currently being controlled by the player. So if we manipulate our partner to go through the trigger without us being there, and then we switch to our partner which is already past the trigger, then we'll be able to skip that trigger and fly up however high we want. Here with Tails, we walk over a certain amount to the right and then start to fly. Ray actually can still trigger the boss, so we need to hold him in place. We can do this by flying as Tails and then staying still, and then start holding down and pressing A. This puts Ray into a spin dash while we have full control in the air. Ray is just being held in one spot, so we can just go ahead and fly right on over the boss trigger and then call Ray back to us. The whole flying over the boss trigger thing is pretty easy, unless you're me apparently, because I managed to somehow go A, too far and die, and then also B, not go far enough and trigger the boss. But after many attempts, I did do it properly and landed at the capsule. The next levels, Stardust Speedway 1 and Stardust Speedway 2, are both extremely easy. Obviously, now that we have Ray back, we have issues with him randomly killing enemies still, but beyond Ray randomly killing enemies occasionally, this is definitely the easiest level in the game so far, even easier than Green Hill. The only real thing to note is that in Stardust Speedway 2, during the Metal Sonic fight, the second phase has us fighting these little silver Sonics. Now, you can just bounce them into Metal Sonic without killing them and getting points, but I'm an idiot, so I was kind of scared I was going to end up killing one and getting points from it. Luckily for us, there is a pretty easy partner skip that we can do right before this section to skip it entirely. After taking down Neo Metal Sonic, we can go on to Hydrocity Zone 1. Hydrocity Zone 1 has a pretty specific route because there's a specific part of the level that we're trying to get to. In this zone, there's these weird grabby enemies, and we can abuse glitches with them in order to skip the boss. So once we reach the specific part of the level with the grabby boy, we need to do a couple of things to activate this glitch. What we're going to be trying to do again is the no collision mode thingy from Studiopolis 1. If we set it up so that we are just about to drown, and then we jump into the grabby boy's arms, just so that we drown while we are in the grabby boy's arms, if we button mash out of the grabby boy's arms while we are drowned before he explodes and kills us, then we will be in the no collision mode. Then, because we have no collision, we can take a quick path up to the top of the level and then get on the level ceiling and continue the boss skip from there. But before that, we have to actually get there without having Ray kill any enemies or get rings. Yeah, keep in mind that the no collision mode only applies to the character that you are controlling and not your partner. So Ray can still very much collect rings while you are in the no collision mode state. While you're in no collision mode, you can't get hurt to lose your ring. And if you switch to your partner character that isn't in no collision mode and then get hurt by them, the no collision mode gets disabled for your other character. So after we activate no collision mode, we just have to make sure that we don't pick up any rings. That is not easy though, because the route we take to get up to the ceiling of the level has a lot of rings in the way, and it has some enemies that Ray just really wants to kill and collect. You have to be very careful with your maneuvering and when you call Ray back to you so that the enemies lose track of you and stop trying to attack you and get closer to you so that Ray can kill them easier. You also have to time calling Ray to you just perfectly so that he avoids these rings here. Here it can also be useful to do the strategy where you hold Ray in place by putting him in a spin dash while you can move around and fly like we did during the Press Garden 2 boss skip. In fact, this is the part of the game where I actually realized that holding Ray in a spin dash is very useful if there's a difficult section coming up that you don't want him to mess up. After many tries, we can do this spin dash jump and get to the ceiling of the level. From there, we have to start walking to the right, and then we'll trigger the boss. After we trigger the boss, we have to do a spin dash jump so we land on this small pillar here. From there, we just do a spin dash, and then we start falling down here for some reason, and then eventually we go into water. Once that happens, we want to start holding right, and then eventually we'll reach the signpost. Because you're holding right, you'll just barely fall under the sledge here, go past the signpost, and the level ends without having to defeat the boss. Hydrocity Zone Act 2 is fairly easy, but there's some difficult routing in there. However, with enough patience and skill, you can get through it. The Hydrocity Zone Act 2 boss is not skippable. In fact, it's kind of difficult to make sure that you lose all of your rings before you kill the boss, because it's such a confined area here. But by stalling it out and getting hit enough, you can lose all of your rings, deliver the final blow, and you get 0 end of level bonuses. And with that, we have completed Hydrocity Zones Act 1 and Act 2, and are moving on to Mirage Saloon Zone. But before we move on to Mirage Saloon, I'm afraid I am going to have to cut this video short here. Yes, I know, another two-parter. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure I got this video out this week, so I decided to split it into 2 parts, because otherwise you would have had to wait an entire another week. I just did the math, and at this point, I think we should have 9,020 points. Editor me, can you confirm? I don't know. If you ever want to know the amount of points that I have, just look in the top left score counter, because that's usually accurate to the amount of score that we actually have in the game at that time. I'd like to give a huge thanks to all of these people here. They are all way cooler than I am and somehow helped with this challenge. I don't have enough time to go into detail exactly what they did, but they're pretty cool, so yeah. Also, especially Joey, he helped me out so much with this, so huge thanks to him. Make sure to go check out his world record run for Encore mode. It is just stunning. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe. It helps out a lot, and it's just one button click, super easy. So if you want to help me out, that's definitely the best way to do so. Leaving a like on the video also helps a lot, and you know, if you're being really risky today, you can hit that notification bell too. If you haven't seen them already, make sure to go check out my other Sonic Mania challenge videos. They will be in the in the top corner or at the end card or something. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next week, hopefully, for part 2. See you then. Goodbye.